Have you heard about this Asbury revival happening at Asbury University in Kentucky? Because I have, and I actually went to check it out. And look, if you follow the work that we do on any of these platforms, including TikTok, you know that we're pretty skeptical of our own evangelical tradition. And frankly, when I hear the term revival, I kind of get triggered because I've been a part of not only those spaces on a consumer side, but I've also been in the band helping to facilitate these moves of the Spirit that ultimately turn out to be just emotionalism and really intense music that then end up changing no one's life long term. So I had to go because we had some people in our community who were there, who were students or alumni, and I wanted to know from the students or from the faculty themselves how they were viewing this, because let's face it, at this point, it's gotten way bigger than just them, and frankly, from my vantage point, it seems like there are some bad faith actors and Christian nationalists trying to co-opt that, but more on that in a minute. And I met with a few of the queer students on campus. Now, Asbury as an organization, as an institution, is technically not affirming. However, they seem to be in progress with how they treat and how they love students who are queer. And the one person I talked to in particular is very open and honest about who they are. I mean, they were wearing the pronoun pins and had it all over their backpack. Even did like an art installation talking about how they've been treated as someone who's queer in the church as a whole. And Asbury supports it. And they told me that the faculty overall was really supportive of them. So that's progress. And the other thing that they told me that really shifted my personal perspective on this was to hear that even during this revival thing, for them, they've met God in maybe a different way than they have in a long time. And that made me pause for a minute, because I think what can happen is that I can take my own baggage and my own legitimate skepticism, and I can throw it onto people in situations that really I'm not a part of directly. And it kind of hit me that I can unintentionally become a fundamentalist all over again by barging into people's sacred spaces and telling them what this is or isn't. And that moment, I had to really tell myself, if this student is experiencing this and they're telling me that the faculty are trying to protect what's happening there, and that maybe something that even they can't fully describe is happening in a really unique way, I had to tell my skeptic brain that yes, maybe I have my own perspectives on this being good or not, or is it just emotionalism and just neurons firing off? But if they're being changed and they're finding a reconnection to the divine, who am I to say, sorry, it's just not what you think it is? So I spent the whole day talking to people in those spaces, and I was actually really encouraged to hear stories of either faculty stopping outside groups from trying to pray the gay away over students, to other students who are, or I should say other alumni who came back to say, hey, how can we maybe speak into this and challenge the faculty to look at their own systemic sins of maybe homophobia or racism, and to start rethinking this based on this revival moment happening. And I gotta be honest, I did not expect to make a video saying these things, and I am still personally very skeptical. And I think I'm actually more concerned now that more charismatic groups are flocking there trying to co-opt it. I mean, Christian nationalists have showed up. Greg Locke was there at one point. Tucker Carlson just covered the event. That concerns me, because evangelical culture like this tends to flock on things, not to give back or to think about the safety of the people who should be prioritized, but instead to make it their own thing, which is why we're starting to see other outbreaks of revival at other colleges and other places, which I am extremely skeptical of. So to sum this up, my thoughts are summed up in really one word: complicated. My experience was complicated. Hearing the stories from students and alumni was complicated. And we're all kind of in this weird tension. But it's important to recognize that ultimately my voice isn't the one that should shape what you think about this. It should be the voices of students and faculty who are there, while understanding that this is a very complicated situation with a lot of layers that will trigger us or bring us hope in different ways. I think the most hopeful part of my entire time there was late on Tuesday, the 14th, sitting in that chapel with 5 other people, one queer alumni, one who's a seminarian, a seminary student, and then 2 people who are part of our community that we do online. And we just sat there thinking through what are we seeing, what are we experiencing, how do we navigate this, and what's the fruit of it? And it was really healing, even for me. And I actually had this moment where I saw someone being prayed over. You know, their hands were out, and students were praying over them. And it was weird because that would have been me if I was in college, 15 years ago. That would have been me even 10 years ago. I know what that is like to do that. I know the feelings behind it. But now, on this side, I can't imagine how I ever would do that. And that gave me empathy and grace for folks in spaces who maybe, for where they are in their life, this is what they need. Because I know that I sure as hell needed those moments back then. And yes, for sure they were problematic. And as someone who is a white, cisgendered male, not all of the situations were harmful like they are for some other types of people. I totally acknowledge that. But man, it just gave me a different way of thinking about this. And I'm still wrestling through it. I'm still incredibly skeptical of all of it. But it was a reminder that if we say we can't put God in a box, that also includes not putting him in that box. So we'll see what happens.